Today, I'll be showing you how to create items that players can click on to equip, such as hats, clothing, and tools. There will be a model of what I show in this video in the important links section of the description, along with written instructions if it's easier for you. During the video, we'll be creating everything from scratch, and first we're going to start off with the hats. If you do not have a custom accessory that you have created and you want to add one from the Roblox catalog, go on over to the View tab at the top left of the screen and make sure the command bar along with the Explorer and Properties has been enabled. The command bar should appear at the very bottom of the screen, and once you've done that, you can either go into the description inside of the important links section, or you can type this out on your own and copy this line of code and paste it into the command bar. Before you hit enter, go down to the Roblox website and go to the page of any item. Next, go over to the web address bar at the top of the screen, and right next to the name of the item there should be a string of numbers. You can select this, copy it, and then go back into Roblox Studio. Then go back down to the command bar and replace the number 1 in that line of code with the number you got from the website. You can then hit enter and it will add that item into the game inside of a model in the workspace. So as you can see over here, I have the hat that we got from the website. Now if you're curious with how that line of code works, I'll explain it in just a moment, and I will also include some resources in the important links section of the description about the insert service and other things that I present in the video. So if you are using a custom accessory, also keep in mind, or one that you've created, keep in mind that you do need to have a part directly inside of it that is called handle with a capital H, as this is what allows the game to recognize it as an item that can be equipped by players, such as hats and tools. So now I'm going to go over and explain this line of code really quickly. So the first thing we are doing is accessing the insert service, which allows us to add items into the game from the website. Next, we are loading the asset or the item with this given ID. And finally, we are setting its parent or whatever is containing it to the workspace so that we can see it directly inside of the game. So now that we have that, we can continue. So next, we are going to put these two items and any other hats that you would like to add into a separate folder so that it will be easier and quicker to reference when we start writing the script. So I'm going to select the workspace, click the plus button, and add a folder inside. I'm going to rename the folder to be called Fake Hats, and I'm going to drag both of these hats inside. And then after that, I am going to select the folder, I am going to copy it, and paste it directly into the server storage. I am then going to rename that to be called Real Hats. So inside of the server storage should be a folder called Real Hats, and it should have however many hats that you would like to have. So then at the very top here, we're going to go back to the fake hats and add some things into them, because we want to detect whenever a player clicks on them. And in order to do that, we are going to use a click detector. So I am going to open both of these accessories, and then I am going to select the handle and click the plus button next to it and add a click detector inside. Do this for any of the fake hats that you have inside of this folder, or any of the real hats you have in this folder, and then also remove the touch interest inside of the handles so that when players walk up to it, they don't equip it by accident, because the touch interest will allow players to walk by it and equip it onto their character automatically. So now that we have that, we can start writing the script. So we can go on over to the server script service, click the plus button, and add a script inside. You can get rid of this text here and get started. So the first thing we are going to do is reference where the folders are inside of the game. So I'm going to start by referencing the ServerStorage, which contains the Real Hats folder. So I'm creating a variable, I'm making a word equal to something else so that it will be much quicker and easier to talk about later in the script. So I've made ServerStorage equal to accessing the server storage in the Explorer. Next, I'm going to reference the Real Hats folder. So I'm going to say Real Hats is equal to ServerStorage.RealHats, because that is the name of the folder. So if you change its location in the game, or if you change what it is called, you will need to change what is on the right side of the equal sign here as well. So if I were to change the name of the folder to just be hats, then I would need to change this to be the exact same spelling, same capitalization. So I'm going to undo this and then add one more thing to the end of this. So I'm going to add :getChildren with these parentheses at the end here so that we can turn the real hats folder into a table. This will allow us to be more efficient when writing the code so that we don't have to reference every single individual hat inside of there. And next I'm going to reference the fake hats folder. So I'm going to say local fake hats is equal to workspace.fakehats, or I'll say workspace : wait for child fake hats, so that it's going to wait for something in the workspace that is called fake hats. And I'm also going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add getChildren so that we are able to turn it into a table. And now that we have that, we can move on to the function. So I'm going to create a function that is called giveHat. And this is going to allow us to give the hat to the player when they click on the item. But in order to activate this function, we have to write something else right below it. And what we're going to do here is create a loop so that we can look through each one of those folders, or in this case, it's going to be the fake hats folder that contains both of these items right here, and check to make sure that each item has the correct things inside of it. So I'm going to start by saying for I, fake hat in pairs, and then I'm going to put the name of the table in here, which is fake hats. Now these over here, these are basically placeholders for referencing the index or the position in the loop, and the one on the right is going to reference the value or the actual item we are referring to. So for example, if I go over here into the fake hats folder, for I, this cake hat could be position 1, and for the tea kettle or the teapot, this could be position 2, because this is the index of the loop that we are referring to. On the other hand, the word fake hat is referencing the actual item. So if we were to print the name of fake hat when it's looping through this folder, it would print out the names of these accessories. So you can change these to whatever you want. You could change this to say position or whatever you would like, but I'm just going to keep it I, fake hat in pairs. So then we are going to do something for each one of these items. This ends the for I, fake hat in pairs loop, and this one over here ends the giveHat function. So now inside of here, we are going to check through each item. So what I'm going to say here is local handle is equal to fake hat, find first child, and then I'm going to look for something inside of that item that is called handle. Additionally, I'm going to check if there is a click detector inside of the handle as well, so that we can make sure that we end up activating the function only when someone clicks on one of the items that has a click detector inside. So now what I could say is if handle, so if the script finds something called handle inside of the fake hat and click detector, and it finds a click detector inside of that handle, then we can make something happen. So in here, we can then activate the function over here by saying the name of the function and adding these two parentheses at the end. And what we can also do is pass through some arguments or data over to that function so we can reference it over there. So in this case, and actually, sorry, I forgot one thing. Before we get to that part, we actually have to check whenever someone clicks on the click detector first. So I'm going to say click detector dot mouse click connect, and then we're going to connect this one to a function so that we can also access the player that activated the function. Because this is listening or waiting until someone clicks the click detector, and the data that is passed through into the function is the player who did it. So I'm just going to label this one here as, so now that we have that, we can activate the giveHat function, send the player through, and we are also going to send that hat through so that we know over in this function over here which item needs to be given to the player. So now that we have this, I'm going to go over here and start writing the function. So because we are sending these two values through over to this function, we have to have a way to reference it. So we are going to set up parameters. So in here, I'm just going to say the same thing, player and fake hat. Now these can be whatever you want. They're basically just placeholders. They don't have to be the same as this one over here, but I'm going to keep it consistent so it will be easier to understand. So now because the hat is going to be given to the character and not the player itself, and the character is the physical one that you can see in game, we need to reference that before we can actually give them the hat. So I'm going to say local character is equal to player.character or player.character added wait, so that it will wait for the character to load in the case that it doesn't exist when the player clicked on it. Like let's say they were respawning when they clicked on it. And the next one, I'm going to say local hat check is equal to looking through the character for something that is called, or for something that has the exact same name as the hat that we passed through. And now the reason that we are doing doing this is so that we don't give them an extra hat in case they already have it on their character. And then after here, I'm going to reference the character's humanoid so that we are able to grant the player the accessory and also remove any accessories that they already have equipped in case you want to set it up that way. So I also have another option that I'll be able to show you, which is whenever a player steps on this brick over here that they will have their accessories removed. So there will be two different options that you can choose from. So now we have this, we can get closer to giving them the hat. And just to clarify, if someone is able to equip a hat here, that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to equip it in every single game that they play. So just don't get your hopes up too high if that's what you think this is going to do. It's only going to allow them to equip it in your game only. So now what we could do is add some checks in here before we finally give them the hat. So the first thing I'm going to do is say if not hat check. So if hat check is not true, which means that the script did not find something in the character with the same name as the hat that was passed through from the loop, then we can make something else happen. So if hat check is not true, then we can loop through the real hats folder, so for I, real hat in pairs, and then we'll reference the real hats table, which is what we created over here, and again that should be inside of the server storage. So then for each item in there we can do something else, and for each one of those items we are going to check if the fake hat's name is equal to the real hat's name. So if the one that was sent through from the loop has the same name as one of them that was in the folder in the server storage, then what we can do there is give them the hat. But then right before we do that, we need to create a cloned version of that hat. Because if we were to just give them the hat directly without creating another version of it, then that means that there would only be able to be one in the game at a single time. And then when that player respawns, they wouldn't have the hat again. Or they wouldn't be able to get the hat again if they wanted to. So by creating a cloned version of it, it won't disappear no matter how many times someone clicks it. So then what we could do here is say humanoid :add accessory, and then we're going to type in here clone, or I'll just change this to cloned hat so that it's easier to see. And now if you want this to remove the player's current accessories that they have equipped before they do this, then you could add another line up here that says humanoid :remove accessories. And before I show you this one, I'm just going to show you that this part works first, and if there are any errors, then we can always go back and fix it in real time. And this error is actually from the example script that we had, so we'll ignore that for now. And if we go over here and we click on this, it gives me the tea kettle or the teapot. And if I click on the cake, it's going to give me that as well. And then for this clear accessories, the other option that we had, it does clear off the accessories. And I'll show you the script that has that working. And now we can go back into the script and add the clear accessories line just to show you that it will work with these. And then we can continue to the next part of the video. So I'm going to disable the example script that we had earlier for the insert service that I showed earlier in the video. And then we can uncomment this here so it could show you that it will remove the player's accessories whenever they click on one of the hats. So if I go over here, I do this, and whoops, I must have made a typo, so let's go fix that. Oh yep, I did. I made a silly mistake. I forgot one letter. So make sure that the spelling is correct with all of this. If you get the model from the description, it won't be spelled incorrectly. So now when I click on it, it will be good and nice and dandy. It removed all of my other accessories and kept me with this hat only, and it's going to do the same with that one. So now we'll just look through the script that I wrote for this one over here really quick for the other option with clearing the accessories, and then we'll move on to the next part of the video. So I'm going to go over here and select it and open the script up that was inside. So this does a similar thing. It has the humanoid remove accessories all the way down here, but I'm going to start from the very top. So the first thing we are doing is referencing the player service, which contains a list of every single player in the game. And I'll explain where this comes in once we get into the function. The next line I am referencing a part, which is script.parent. In this case, script.parent means that the item we are talking about is what is containing the script. So if I go on here into the workspace again and I open up the clear accessories part, the script is directly inside of the clear accessories part. And if this is a little bit confusing, you can select the item and go down into the properties and see that its parent is clear accessories. So we are directly referencing the script's parent. If that's a little bit confusing, I'll put a resource into the important link section of the description that should be able to help out with that as well. And next part right here, whenever that part is touched, we are going to connect it to a function, and the data that gets passed through from this .touched event is going to be whatever touched it. So hit is going to reference, it could reference the player's left arm or left leg, and that is what you'll be able to get from there. And the reason that is important is so that we can check whether, I'm sorry, this is the wrong script, and that is so that we can check whether or not it comes from a character and whether that character is from a player. So we are creating a variable that's called player and making it equal to checking through the player service and seeing if we are able to access a player from their character. In order to do that, we are checking hit.parent. And the reason we're checking hit.parent is because any part inside of a character, its parent is going to be the model that contains it. So anything here on the very first layer, its parent is the character or that model. So that is why we are saying hit.parent inside of here. So if the script determines that it is a player, then it's going to continue on with the rest of the script. So then we are referencing the character as hit.parent, and we're looking for their humanoid inside of the character. And if it finds the humanoid, then we will remove the accessories. And that is how that script works over there. And now that we have that out of the way, we can move on over to clothing. There will be a model of what I show in this video in the important link section of the description, along with written instructions if it's easier for you. During the video, we'll be creating everything from scratch, and now we're going to move on to clothing. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be using character models, but you do not need to use that in order for it to work in your case. If you would like to add these default character models into your game, go over to the Plugins tab at the very top left of the screen and click on the Build Rig button. This is a default plugin that should come with Roblox Studio. Next, you can choose between an R15 or R6 character model, which are the two different character types. I'm going to add a block rig into the game, and now we have a default character. Now from here, in order to customize the shirt or pants that the character model has equipped, select the character in the workspace, click the plus button next to it, and you can type in shirt to add a shirt, and then you can type in pants to add pants. And I'm just going to rename these just so it'll be easier distinguish between the two, and then we can continue. In order to customize this, you can go down to the Roblox website and go to the page of any shirt or pants. Next, you can go to the web address bar, and right next to the name of the item, there should be a string of numbers. This is what you would normally select and copy and then to bring it back into Studio, but just in case this doesn't work, you can subtract the last number in the ID by 1. So if it's 41, you'd go to 40. If it's 40, you'd go to 39, and so on and so forth. The reason you would do this is so that you can access the template where it was uploaded from. And this is the secondary ID that you would use in the case that the page where you would normally purchase the shirt or item from doesn't end up working. So in this case, I'm just going to try using this one, and if it doesn't work, we'll go on over to the template. So I'm going to select the shirt over here, going to go down to its properties and paste the number into the shirt template. As you can see, the shirt did work there, so I'm going to do the same thing with pants. So I'm going to get this gray wizard robes over here, get the number, go back into Studio, select the pants, and go over to pants template, paste it in, and it happened to work. So now we have customized shirt and pants for that. So now we can get into the part of the video where I will show you how players will be able to click on them in order to equip the clothing. Actually, I'm going to select this model really quick, go over to humanoid, and I'm going to change the display distance type to none so we don't see the name over the character model. So now we have that. Let's create a folder for each one of these characters so it will be easier to organize and it will be quicker to write the script later on. So I'm going to click on the workspace and click the plus button right next to it, and I'm going to add a folder inside. I'm going to rename the folder to clothing and drag all of these models into it. So I'm going to rename this to model 2. Actually, I'll drag this out of it. Let's get the one from the clothing station, and let's drag all 3 of these into that folder. So now we have that. Click on one of the models and click the plus button next to it and add a click detector inside. This is what will allow us to detect whenever a player clicks on one of the models so that they will be able to equip the clothing. So once you have a click detector directly inside all of the models or whatever you are using for this, we can start writing the script. So we can go on over to the ServerScript service, click the plus button and add a new script inside. I'm going to rename the other one so we don't get confused. And I'm going to rename this one to clothing script. And then we can get rid of the text in here and get started. So first thing we are going to do is reference the clothing, the folder inside of the workspace. So I'm going to start by saying local clothing is equal to workspace wait for child clothing. The word on the left is a variable, which is what we will be using in order to speed up the process and make it quicker to reference other things that take longer to type, and so that it will be easier to correct it later in the script just in case we change where this folder is in the game. So for example, if we had this clothing folder inside the map instead, we could say something like workspace wait for child map, and then we could say .clothing. So if you change the name or the position of it in the game, make sure that you change it accordingly for the variable. So I'm going to change this back over here to just clothing. Next, I'm going to create a function, and that function's name is going to be called new clothing. And this is going to be what we will be using in order to apply the new clothes to the player. But in order to activate this function, we need to write something else. And actually, we are going to add one more thing to the end of the clothing variable. I'm going to say :get children, and this is going to turn that folder into a table so that it will be easier and quicker to loop through each model so that we can check what things it has. So we can check if it has a shirt, if it has pants, if it has both, and along with that, if it has a click detector inside. So I'm going to start over here by saying for I, character template in pairs, and I'm going to put the name of the table, which is clothing. Now these over here are placeholder words, or something that you are able to change based on preference. On the left side, in this case I, is going to be referring to the position in the loop, or the index. So if I go over here into the clothing folder for example purposes, model 1 could be position 1, model 2 could be position 2, and model 3 could be position 3. But if we reference the character template, that is going to be talking about the actual item or value inside of that table. So in this case, we are mainly going to be referencing the character template. So for each one of the items inside of the clothing folder, we are going to check for a few different things. So we're going to first check for a click detector inside of the character template. So I'm going to say character template.click detector. And this is so that we can activate the new clothing function whenever a click detector is activated inside of one of those character templates. So if I go over here in next line, I'm going to reference a shirt by saying character template find first child of class. So it's going to find something with the class name, basically category of a shirt. And then next I'm going to do the same thing with the pants, except I'm going to change this at the end here to say pants instead. And then after this, we can write a few if-then statements so that we can check what condition needs to be met in order to activate this function. Because we'll be sending some different values through so that the script knows what new clothing the player needs applied to them. So the first thing I'm going to say here is if click detector, because we want to make sure that there is a click detector in one of those models before continuing. This ends the if click detector, then statement. So if there's a click detector, then that's perfect. And then inside of here, we'll add a few more checks. So next I'm going to say if shirt and pants, then, and then I'm going to add some more else if statements here for all of the other conditions that could be met. So the other one could be else if shirt. So if there's only a shirt for a particular character template, then we could have something happen. And then else if there's only pants, then we could have something else happen. Now keep in mind that you do need one end for each function or loop along with an if-then statement, but for else-if statements you do not need another end for that because they are still within the original one technically. It's an alternative condition that could be met. So let's go start with the first one. So if shirt and pants. So if the character template has both shirt and pants that would need to be applied to the player, then we are going to do this. We're going to say click detector mouse click connect, and we're going to connect it to a function, and the data that is passed through from someone clicking on a click detector is the player that did it. So in this case, we can then activate the new clothing function by saying its name and adding the parentheses at the end of it, and then we can send some data through. So in this case, I'm going to send the player through. I'm going to send the shirt through along with the pants so that the script will know later on what needs to be given to the player. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it down here, except I am going to change it a little bit. So instead of sending pants, I'm going to send the shirt through because this condition will run if there's only a shirt that exists on the character template. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here, except I will change this part over to pants. So now we have that, we can move on over to the function at the very top. So over here, because we are sending multiple values through into the function, we have to have a way to reference it. So in order to reference these arguments, let's add in some parameters over here. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to start with the first one being player, because that's always the first data value that we ended up sending through here for each one of them. And then the next one is going to just be first clothing, and the next one will be second clothing. So you could change these to be whatever you would like here, but the reason I am calling it first clothing and second clothing is because there are some times where we are sending in 2 values, and there are other times where we are sending in 1. And the first clothing can vary between shirt and pants based off of these 2 conditions. So I'm going to go back over here and we can continue. So because the clothing would need to be applied to the player's character, we need to make sure that that is referenced inside of this function. So I'm going to say local character is equal to player.character or player.character added :weight, in case the player's character isn't loaded when they click the button or when they clicked on the character model. So let's say they were maybe respawning at that time. So that will wait for the character to load in. The next thing we're going to do is reference the character's shirt to make sure that it has one already. So I'm going to say local shirt is equal to character : find first child of class, just like down here. And then I'm going to type in shirt. And the next one, we are going to do the same thing except with pants. So we'll do that right there. And then we need to handle a case where the player doesn't have one of these equipped on their character already, so that the script doesn't break. So I'm going to say if not shirt, then we can have something happen. So if it doesn't find a shirt on the character already, then we are going to give them a new one. So then we are going to create a new shirt, and we'll make it equal to instance.new, so we're creating a new item that is a shirt. We're going to change its name to just be shirt, and change its parent, or whatever is containing it, to be the character. And then we are going to update the variable up here so that it finds this new one that has been given to the character. And then we are going to do the same thing with the pants, except that we're just going to change some of the names around here. So this one, not pants. We'll change this to new pants, if not pants. And then we're just going to change that to be uniform with all of the rest of the things in here. So this one as well. Just going to change all of them so that it matches appropriately. So now that we have these parts out of the way here, we can get to the part of the function that will give the player the new clothing. So now down here we can start writing some more. So the first thing I'm going to say is if shirt and pants, because we want to make sure that this part of the script is only going to run if the player has those on their character, so that doesn't accidentally break the script. So if this is the case, then we're going to check for a few more things. So the first thing I'm going to check in here is if the first clothing that was sent through is a shirt, because in all cases, so including the one where we're sending multiple values, the shirt is always the second parameter aside from this last one over here. So if this is the case and second clothing, so we need to make sure that a value was passed through for the second clothing, because only one of them has that, or else it could cause the script to error. So and there is a value that was passed through, and second clothing is a pants, then we can make something happen. And then we're going to add some more here. So else if first clothing is a shirt, then we could have something happen there. And then we're going to do the same thing here, except it will be for the second clothing. Or not the second clothing, it is also going to be the first clothing. And then we're going to change this one to be pants. And again, the reason we are doing this is so that all of the conditions that we provided over here and the different values that are getting sent through are properly checked for up in the function, so that the player will be given the correct things. So now we have that, we can get to the final steps. So now if the first clothing that was sent through is a shirt and there is a second clothing, which is pants, then we can change the templates of the one that the player was given or already has to the template of the ones that are on these characters. So if I go over here now, what I could say is shirt.shirtTemplate is equal to first clothing.shirtTemplate. And on the next one, I could say pants.pantsTemplate is equal to second clothing.pants template. So we're simply changing the ID of the template to match up the same instead of just cloning it onto the character. So then we could follow the same sort of principle with these ones over here. And we could do the same one with the one at the very end, except we're going to make sure instead of saying second clothing, we're going to say first clothing. So now that we have this should cover everything. And just in case something doesn't work, we will edit it and fix it on the fly. And I'm also just going to, I'll label these later on. So I'm going to go over here and click on play, and we'll make sure that everything works properly. So I'm going to start over here by clicking on this one, which will give me a new shirt, and that one did. It changed it. This is one inside of my group store. If you're interested, group can be found in the description below. And then this one here, I'll just do this one first. This one will change my pants to happy faces, and then this one's going to change it to the Roblox guest shirt and the robe. So if I do that, both of them were changed, and it all worked accordingly. So now that we have this out of the way, we can move on to the final section, which is with tools. There will be a model of what I show in this video in the important links section of the description, along with written instructions if it's easier for you. During the video, we'll be creating everything from scratch, and now that we've gotten through the hats and clothing section of the video, let's move on over to tools. So now if you don't already have a tool inside of the game that you would like to use, and let's say you wanted to add one from the Roblox catalog, go on over to the View tab at the top left of the screen and make sure the command bar, along with the Explorer and Properties, has been enabled. The command bar should appear at the very bottom of the screen, and once you've done that, you can go on over into the important links section of the description, or you can type this on your own, and you can copy this line of code and paste it into the command bar. Before you hit enter, go back down to the Roblox website and go to the page of any gear. From here, go on over to the web address bar, and next to the name of the item, there should be a string of numbers that appear. You can select this and copy it and go back into Roblox Studio. Then, go back down to the command bar and replace the number 1 in that line of code. And once you've done that, you can hit enter and it will run the code, and it will insert that item or gear into the workspace inside of a model. So over here, as you can see, I have the Bloxy Cola that we got over from the website. And now if you're curious with how that line of code works, I'll explain it really quick. I explained it earlier in the video during the hat section, but I would cover it again. And I'll also include resources about that in the important links section of the description if you're interested. So as a quick rundown, the first thing we are doing is accessing the insert service, which will allow us to load things in from the website. Next, we are loading in an asset or an item with this given ID, and we are setting its parent or whatever is containing it to the workspace so that we can see it directly inside of our game. And now take note that if you have created your own tool, that you need to make sure that directly inside of the tool there is something called a handle. And now this is a part that needs to be in any tool or accessory in order for the game to recognize it as something that the player is able to equip. It has to have a capital H and it has to be directly inside of the tool. And now that we have that out of the way, we can continue. Now the first thing we are going to do is add 2 of these items and any other ones that you have into a folder. So it'll be easier and quicker to reference in the script, and so it'll be just a lot more efficient. So I'm going to go over and click on the workspace at the top right. I'm going to click on the plus button right next to it and add a folder inside. I'm going to rename the folder to Fake Tools, and I am going to drag both of these tools inside. So I'm going to get the Bloxy Cola, and then I'm also going to get the classic sword. Now I'm going to select the Fake Tools folder, I'm going to copy it, and paste it directly into the ServerStorage. I am then going to rename the one in the ServerStorage to Real Tools, and this is going to be the actual one that is given to the player when they click on it. So next, we are going to make sure that these tools over here have removed a couple of things. Make sure that there are no scripts inside of the ones that are directly inside of the game, along with removing the touch interest. Wow, there's a lot of welds in it. A lot of welds in the Bloxy Cola. So you can remove the sounds if you would like to, up to you, but make sure to keep the mesh if that exists there. And the reason we are getting rid of the touch interest and any scripts inside of it is so that no player is able to just walk up to it and directly pick it up and use it. And it could also error in case some of the scripts there are referencing to a player that should be holding it. So once you have removed all of those things from it, we can start writing the script. So we can go on over to the server script service, click the plus button right next to it, and add a script inside. I'm going to rename it to tools script. We can get rid of the text in here and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is reference where all of these tools are inside the game. So I'm going to start with the one in the server storage. So I'm going to start by saying local server storage is equal to game get service server storage. On the left side, we have a variable, which is a word that we are making equal to something else in the game. So that is much easier and quicker to reference it in the future. And if we ever need to change what is on the right side, we don't have to go through the entire script and adjust it, since we can just adjust the variable here. Next, we are going to reference the real tools folder. So that is directly inside of the server storage, and it is called real tools. So I'm going to make sure that on the right side, we are correctly referencing its position in the game, as well as the exact spelling and name of the item. So if you were to change the folder to something that's just tools with a lowercase t, then you would need to change it on the right side of the variable. And if you change its position in the game to, let's say, like the workspace, then you would need to do so right here as well. So just make sure that any changes that are different from what are shown in the video that you make accordingly, or else it could cause the script to break. The next thing we are going to do is reference the fake tools, which are directly inside of the workspace, or the folders directly inside of the workspace. So I'm going to say local fake tools is equal to workspace, wait for child, fake tools, or not fake hats, we did that earlier in the video, and fake tools. And this is just in case it doesn't exist yet when the server is trying to reference it. And I'm going to add one more thing to the end of both of these, and that's going to be get children with parentheses at the end. And this is going to turn both of these folders into a table so that it will be much more efficient to loop through them later on, so we don't have to reference each item individually on their own, or else it could take a really long time. And now we can continue on with the script. So we're going to create a function that is called giveTools. And this is what is going to handle giving the tools to the player once they click on these items inside of the workspace. So now the next thing I'm going to do right below it is create a loop so that we can activate this function. So the first thing I'm going to say is for I, fake tool in pairs, and I'm going to loop through the name of the table here, which is fake tools. And in this case, these are placeholders for referencing the index or the position in the loop. So if I go over into the fake tools folder, this Bloxy Cola could be position 1, and the classic sword could be position 2. But if I say fake tool, then that will refer to the actual item itself, or the value that it has. So we are going to be referencing this one on the right instead, and you can change this name to whatever you would like as well. So now for each one of the items that is inside of that folder, we are going to do something. So I'm going to reference the handle. So we're going to check if inside of that fake tool, we can find something that is called a handle, and that is going to be whatever contains the click detector that I forgot to include. So make sure that for both of these items that you have selected them and that you have clicked the plus button right next to it and added a click detector inside. Don't know how I forgot that, but as long as we got it now and that you have done that, then now we are good. So yes, make sure that there is a click detector inside both of those. So now in the next line, we could reference it. So we could say local click detector is equal to handle.clickDetector. So nice. Now that we have that, we can check whenever a player clicks on it. So now we could say if handle and click detector. So if there is a handle found inside of the fake tool, and if a click detector exists inside of that handle, then we can continue on and can write the next thing. So now here we need to check whenever someone clicks the item. So now we could say click detector dot mouse click, and we can connect it to a function. And the data that is passed through whenever someone clicks on a click detector is the player that activated it. So that is why we are referencing player inside of these parentheses over here. So when that happens, what we are going to do is reference or activate the giveTools function here by saying its name, giveTools, and putting the parentheses at the end. And we can pass some data through here so that the script will know what tool or item needs to be given to the player. So in this case, I am going to be saying player as the first parameter so that the script knows who it needs to be given to. And then we're going to say fake tool because that will give them the tool in question. So now we can go on over to the giveTools function and continue. Since we're sending two different values through, we need to have a way to reference it. So inside the parentheses over here, I'm going to add some parameters. I'm just going to call it the exact same thing, just so it's easier to understand, but you can change it to whatever you would like. So now we have that, we can continue. So inside of here, we are going to need to reference a few different things. We're going to start by referencing the player's backpack so that we can put it into the backpack so that it shows up at the hotbar at the very bottom of the screen once they click it. And then next we are going to reference the player's character. And the reason we are doing this is so that we are able to check, and here, well, it's tough to type and talk at the same time sometimes. So right here we are referencing the player's character, or if it doesn't exist at the time that they have clicked it and activated this function, then we will wait for their character to be added into the game. And now to go back to this one, wait, I don't know what I was saying anymore, but I think I was talking about the character. Oh yeah, because or here, if I'm not talking about the same thing, then there will be something on the screen that'll explain what I was going to say. But the reason we are referencing the character is so that we are able to check if the player already has the tool equipped before giving it to them. Because when a tool is unequipped, it will be in the player's backpack. But when it is equipped, it is inside of the character. And I can explain this once we get on to the later part of the video and once we've given the players the tools. So now we have this, let's add some more checks. So now I'm going to say local backpack check is equal to backpack find first child, and it is going to be with the name of that fake tool. And I'm going to do the same with the character check over here. So do this, except we'll check it inside of the character. So it's going to look through the backpack and see if it can find something with the name of the tool that was passed through, and then same with the character. And then we are going to check right below it. So if the character has a backpack and it is not already inside of their backpack or inside of their character, then we can continue on. So from here, we can loop through the real tools folder so that we can get ready to give the actual tool that works to the player. So I'm going to say for I, real tool in pairs, and I'm going to say the name of the table here, which is real tools, which we referenced over on line 2. And then for each one of those items, we are going to do something. So now I'm going to say if fake tool.name is equal to one of the names of the real tool.name, then we can get ready to give the item. But then we need to make sure that we are not giving the exact tool from the server storage. And what I'm saying by this is that we need to create a clone of the item, or else whenever the player clicks on it, it's going to go directly from the server storage to the player or the character, and then it won't be able to be used again. So we need to make sure we create a cloned tool. So we're going to say local cloned tool is equal to real tool, clone, and then add these parentheses at the end. So then what we could do is say cloned tool.parent is equal to backpack, so that there will always be another version of the tool. So even if someone was to click on one of these, and then someone else comes along and they also want to equip a sword, there's still going to be one that is there and available for them. So now we have this, we're going to play test and check if it works, and if it doesn't, we are going to debug it, and I'll show you the changes that would need to be made. I'm going to go over here, and I am going to click on the sword. As you can see, I have the sword at the very bottom. I'm going to try to click on it again, and here, as you can see, I was clicking on it a bunch and it's not giving me another sword. If I drop this and then I try to click it again, it is going to give me the sword because I didn't have it in my character or in my backpack at the time. Next, I'm going to go over to the Bloxy and do the exact same thing, and it happened to work as well. And if I try and click on it also, it is not going to give me another version. So that should wrap this video up here. So if you've made it this far, you'll likely enjoy my Roblox Studio tutorial series that has over 20 other tutorials that can be found through the card at the top right of the screen or in the playlist in the description below. Remember to subscribe and feel free to suggest what tutorial I should create next, along with any feedback about what I could do to make these tutorials more enjoyable and easier for you to learn from. If you have any further questions, please let me know down in the comment section. I'll try to help as soon as possible. And aside from that, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!